Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was definitely a hot contender for Game of the Year. Too bad it didn't win any awards. Despite that, and its arguably buggy launch, I greatly enjoyed this game and played through it like 4 times at the time of me recording this. With that being said, I can't help but feel excited for the next entry in the series. And while some fans are worried that killing off some of Spidey's most iconic baddies was a risky move, Spidey's rogue gallery of villains is way larger than people might think, and this may end up being a great opportunity to speculate future villains that don't normally get the spotlight, whether it be the third game or potential DLC. Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus are obviously going to be the 2 main villains of the third game. Both Norman and Otto are both prominent figures in Peter's life, and while it has been stated that Miles will be the Spidey we'll be focused on more from now on, that doesn't mean Peter won't be involved once he's done taking a break from being Spider-Man. The main question I have is how Norman will become the Goblin. Will he take the G serum on its own, or will Otto betray him in some way and inject him with a tampered version of it? Since we know it was meant to cure Harry, will we get a classic tech-based Goblin, or will we get the more monstrous Ultimate Goblin? Still way too early to tell, but the possibilities are there. Carnage has pretty much been confirmed, and while we haven't gotten it, it's largely speculated he might be DLC. I don't see Carnage being a major antagonist in the third game. Having an entire DLC story revolve around him would be just the right amount to do him justice, while also not having him feel like Venom again, but red. What's even cooler is that we got Scream as a boss fight in this game, and if we're gonna throw baddies that don't normally get the spotlight, why not throw in Carnage's girlfriend Shriek in on this as well? I'm not well adept with the comics, but I think most people can guess what her main ability is. It'd be cool to fight these two in a game as a double boss fight, maybe even use Shriek's power to your advantage against Carnage, like how you were able to make members of the Sinister Six hurt each other in the first game. Again, not too familiar with the comics, but I do recognize Beetle from the Ultimate Spider-Man game and how you would chase him as Spider-Man but fight him as Venom. It'd be cool if Beetle was more of a side villain that you had to chase down a number of times in New York before finally facing off against him in an epic showdown. Better yet, fight him while chasing him around the city, or even better, have him chase you. One thing I think Insomniac games could improve on is making the city itself an actual battlefield for boss fights. Granted, that could lead to more problems in gameplay, but it was already kinda done with Taskmaster in the first game. The fact that he blindsides you and challenges you to a fight on the street or a building was crazy. Really made it seem like this guy could get the drop on you at any time, and I feel Beetle could possibly be a similar threat. We know Kingpin's still in prison, and he swore vengeance on Miles for messing up his criminal organization plans in Harlem, so it's possible we might see him again in some way or form, albeit possibly in another side mission.
Time to die! No, it's Morbid time.
If we ignore that god-awful movie, Morbius is a pretty cool villain that surprisingly doesn't appear in that much Spider-Man media. I think it'd be cool to take the Arkham Knight route with him, and do something similar to what they did with Man-Bat in that game. Have him be a constant presence on the map, at least during nighttime, you know, him being a vampire. Well, pseudo-vampire. I don't know, comic books are weird. It'd be cool to have a villain you have to actively track down on your own, instead of having a marker tell you where they are. Maybe MJ could give you a guesstimate of their location in a particular part of the city, or you could find victims scattered across the city to help him pinpoint his location. Hydro Man and Molten Man are definitely lesser tier Spider-Man villains that I don't know very much about, but it'd be cool to have them be side villains you fight in a game at some point as well. Since we're obviously getting Green Goblin, it'd be cool if maybe we got a little Hobgoblin before Norman goes full super villain. I feel like this villain often gets overshadowed because his green counterpart is just that much more famous, despite the fact that he's apparently supposed to be the superior of the 2 goblins. I don't know, maybe having 2 goblins in the same game would have been a bit redundant. Didn't stop Shattered Dimensions from doing it. Last on our speculation list is Calypso. Despite being incredibly obscure, she probably has the best chance of being in DLC. Not only has she worked alongside Kraven in the comics before, but she's even been depicted as his lover in some media. While it's confirmed in this game Kraven has a wife and kids, well, had a wife and kids, Calypso could have been a potential fling, or possibly just a close friend. Hearing news of Kraven's death could drive her to travel to New York and start trouble for Miles and Peter. Even better, she's into voodoo mind control bullshit. Though if we're extremely lucky, we could get a Miles v. Peter rematch, perhaps from Peter's point of view this time. I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but it would be interesting. Well, that's all the Spider-Man villains I've looked up that I'm fairly well versed in. I know there are tons more like Jackal, Doppelganger, and the Spider Slayers, but we'd be here forever if we listed all of them, and these were the ones I thought were the most plausible. I'm sure Insomniac will make a great quality game regardless. But if we don't get a big whale boss fight, I'm fucking rioting.